Hello and welcome to this training. Today's lesson is entitled What's New in Sage CRM 2018, a Technical Deep Dive. My name is Jeff Richards and I'm the Head of Training Program Development for Sage CRM. And I work within the development team in Dublin, and I'm responsible for the creation of training resources that cover the programming interfaces, customization capabilities and technical features of Sage CRM. The core intended audience for this deep dive are Sage colleagues and partners who provide technical support for integrated Sage CRM. So let's think about what resources and documentation are available to support the release. I'd like to remind you that all of the release notes, the guides and the online help can be found on the Sage CRM Help Center. So you'll find that at help.sagecrm.com. And this should be the first place that you look for help around the features and the supported environments for all of the different supported versions of Sage CRM. And the documentation has changed to support the great new features that have been added to enhance the user experience in 2018 R2. So let's look at what some of these are. The user guide and online help have been updated to include details about the filtering on action and status bars within the calendar screens. It also includes the recording of consent so that you can actually send marketing materials. The idea of issuing a consent email from within the product to a person or to a lead, and that's either to an individual or to a group. And then the idea of working with MailChimp results at the level of the person or company and checking whether a person or a company record has actually been synced across to MailChimp or SwiftPage. It'll also cover in the user guide the idea of how the main menu display can be changed to allow for the better experience within narrow screens. The System Administration Guide has been updated to include details of the new configuration of the Quick Find. It's also been improved to look at how the system administrator can delete communications and documents for a lead or a person or for a group of those, and to allow you to configure the consent emails that you may want to send. And we'll also look at the idea of enabling the sending of those in the first place and also configuring the URL that can be used once a consent email has been reacted to. Where else can you find information? Well, make sure that you look at the support and training YouTube channel, and the link shown here will take you to the Sage CRM Getting Started and Overview videos. There are, of course, additional resources being added to the community to support the release and to help colleagues and partners get the most out of integrated CRM in order to be able to serve customers in the best way. The Sage CRM community has additional resources to help partners, and these include a spreadsheet that lists the main metadata and database changes that have been made between Sage CRM 2018 R1 and Sage CRM 2018 R2. And note that these changes are largely connected with the enabling of the easy management of contact consent. And it covers in detail any new tables that we've added in, the new views, what columns have been added to existing tables, and the new screen objects and system parameters that have also been added to the system. And we'll cover some of this in a moment. So let's start to look at some of the under the hood changes. Now these are the invisible changes, largely invisible changes that users won't necessarily recognize, but system administrators need to know about, and nevertheless are all about improving that user experience. The new features that I'll be talking about within Sage CRM 2018 R2, and as we explore these you may realize that they're going to have an impact on any components or add-ons, and in fact some of the techniques that you've been using to extend Sage CRM. And so you will be thinking as we go through about the database and the data model, and some of the questions about custom code and APIs and metadata may come up. So these are all impact areas. And so there are a small number of important changes to the database and metadata that you need to know about. First of all, there's a brand new table within the system. That's consent management, and there are a few new views: V consent management and V contact MailChimp campaigns, and two new views, V consented person and V consented leads, and these last two views that I've just mentioned gathered a list of person or leads who have actually responded giving consent to be contacted. And there are some new columns in existing tables to allow us to keep track of the link to external systems, and that's the PERS integrated systems on the person table and comp integrated systems on the company table. There are two new screen objects: consent management entry screen and consent management list. And there are some new system parameters: quick find result and XSS filter list, and we'll be talking about those in a moment. So as we discuss the new features in the rest of the training session, you'll be able to understand how all of these changes have been made. Now, we only support products that themselves enjoy mainstream support from their manufacturers, and that means that our software inevitably changes over time. That means our software list of what we support. And so we need to consider the changes in supported software, and this affects not just the servers, but also the devices that are used to access integrated Sage CRM. So what we can see is that support has been added for Microsoft SQL Server 2017, and that's at this stage without any service pack, and that's for both standard or enterprise. And on mobile devices, we now support Android 5.0 Lollipop or later. But support has been dropped for Microsoft Windows Server 2012, and that's also 2012 Essentials, and we've also dropped support for Microsoft SQL Server 2012 SP3 Standard or Enterprise. And on mobile devices, we no longer support KitKat at 4.4, that's the Android KitKat 4.4, and iOS 9.x. And within client machines, we've dropped support for Microsoft Office 2010, which really that's to do with Outlook and Outlook Classic and Lite integration. So one of the things that I really want to have a look at now that's going on largely behind the scenes is the global XSS filter, and you'll find this within the administration system behavior screen, where you'll see two new fields. So these two new fields are use global XSS filter and HTML elements blocked by filter. So the global XSS filter performs a set of operations to detect cross-site scripting, that's XSS, in all screens in Sage CRM, and this is to protect against XSS attacks as data is submitted. The filter looks for commonly used techniques that may be used to trigger JavaScript or other types of code that may attempt to do malicious acts. And part of the work that the filter does is to remove values that might represent HTML tags that can be used to deliver XSS or to carry out similar attacks, such as adding buttons onto a screen or loading external content. Now, HTML tag filtering isn't the only thing that the XSS filter does, but the list of tags that will raise a flag are the ones defined in the filtered tags list. And if anything disallowed is encountered, it's rendered safe by returning only content that passes the filter. Another security change is that transport layer security, and this is a feature that has been in the product for a while. So transport layer security establishes a secure connection from Sage CRM to a mail server, and this is what is used by Sage CRM to allow it to connect to public mail services that require a secure connection, and that's such as Exchange Online, Hosted Exchange, or Gmail. And it's just to be clear that Sage CRM supports TLS versions 1.1 and 1.2. Sage CRM does not support earlier versions such as TLS v1 or SSL v3. Let's have a look at the upgrade to Sage CRM 2018 R2. The upgrade path, as documented, is clear. And customers are supported in their upgrades from Sage CRM 2017 plus Sage CRM 2018 R1. If you are upgrading a system, then we need to consider what customization areas you'll need to review. And of course, you're going to need to be able to check what work is required to ensure that any components, and these are the components that are added through the use of ES and ECF and other files that may have been created in earlier versions of Sage CRM, for example 2017, will also install correctly on Sage CRM 2018 R1 and R2. You'll also need to understand what changes you may need to make to enable your custom add-ons, customizations, and extensions. And here I'm thinking about ASP pages, the .NET assemblies, the web services code that worked in Sage CRM 2017, and you want to be able to be sure that they're going to continue to work in 2018 R2 as the system is upgraded. Do have a look at the details of the release notes to make sure what different enhancements and also details of cases have been resolved inside the product. But I want to move on now to a very serious topic that's affecting a lot of people at the moment, and this is to do with the management of personal data in the context of a CRM product like Sage CRM. The General Data Protection Regulation is a new law that regulates how the personal data of EU citizens can be collected, used and processed by a business. Now, it's taking place, and it's taking effect, rather, on May 25th, 2018. And while it's being implemented by the European Union, it applies not only to organisations based in the EU, but it's also to those that have customers and contacts in the EU. So it's going to have an impact on businesses all around the world. Sage CRM provides sales, marketing and customer service management functionality to our customers and allows them to maintain and manage customer contact data. And Sage CRM integrates with Sage Business Cloud products such as Sage 100 Cloud, Sage 200 Cloud and Sage 300 Cloud to provide a complete view of customer relationships. Consequently, it exchanges some data, including personal data, with those systems. And Sage CRM can also be integrated with email marketing providers such as MailChimp and SwiftPage, and personal data is exchanged with those products if the integration is enabled and subscriber information is synchronized. As the Sage CRM system holds personal data about customers and prospects, an active approach to managing this data by Sage CRM customers is required. Now, most businesses and organizations will hold some sensitive data. For an example of sensitive data is an employee's or a supplier's bank details so that they can get paid. And Sage CRM is also a completely customizable system, so Sage customers may well have added additional personal data fields into their Sage CRM system. You just have to think about systems that may be holding anything from ethnic origin, gender, date of birth, blood type, etc., or even something like a social security number. And so all of this information can be very sensitive. And the new release of Sage CRM provides functionality to help customers meet their data consent management obligations. And Sage CRM may have been extensively customized with these additional personal data fields, and therefore it is actually the responsibility of the customer to identify those fields and to manage that data according to the law. Personal data is any information that relates to an individual, either alone or when combined with other information a customer might possess. So for the purposes of this training course, we're going to be just thinking about the standard Sage CRM fields like first and last names, personal addresses or phone numbers and email addresses. But as you can see from this slide, customers will likely have added other fields to their system that need to be managed. The key is only to hold the data that you need for as long as you need it, and to ensure that you've documented the appropriate legal grounds for holding and processing that data. And there are different legal grounds that apply to standard and sensitive personal data types, but here this is where we come on to the question of consent. Now, businesses are required to obtain consent for why they have data, so consent needs to be explicit. And this shouldn't be confusing. One clear benefit of the GDPR as an example of data consent and data management regulation and other protection legislation is to actually clarify and provide transparency on how a customer wants to be contacted. And if we think through this, a company can build trust by demonstrating a commitment to consent management. Customers in that relationship can feel empowered within the relationship so that they can understand exactly what data is being collected and how it will be used. And by ensuring permissions are regularly sought and updated will also mean that the data is accurate. And you can then be sure that when you do communicate with that customer, you're only sending messages to people who want to receive that message, and so you will improve the overall reception of any of the communication that you send out. Now, there are several new features in Sage CRM 2018 R2 that, when combined with existing functional areas, will help Sage CRM customers with the overall management of consent. And these include the idea of obtaining and tracking consent at the level of individual records or groups of records, the idea of anonymizing data, and so that's actually blanking out data or obfuscating data with individual records or groups of records, and then deleting communications and library items, and finally being able to understand where data is being used outside the system. So we're going to get stuck into the product now, and I certainly want you to feel confident that you understand the changes to the product and how these are going to impact any existing implementations of the product and what consequence they have on the support that you offer customers. Sage CRM 2018 R2 is a significant release. And this is not just because of the management of the person and lead records, which are all to do with the management of consent and the deletion of documents and communications, both for individuals and groups of contacts. There are also improvements in the MailChimp integration with information about campaigns being shown directly in the context of both a person and a company. And to help that flow and management of personal data, you can also see whether a person's data has been shared with programs like MailChimp or SwiftPage. Let's start looking at some of these changes in details. There are other user experience improvements, updates in the way in which the main menu is displayed on smaller screens, the way in which the calendar can be filtered by action or status, and how a system administrator can control the amount of records returned in a quick find result set. And the release notes will also document how there are over 50 issues and enhancements addressed in Sage CRM 2018, and these will include, as I've mentioned, some of the support, the change in support for TLS 1.1 and 1.2 in email communication. And all these changes have been documented in the Help Center and in the training material added to the community in the YouTube channel. So let's look at the features that support the management of consent. GDPR requires you to have evidence of consent from a contact to be marketed to via email, text, calls, etc. So in the next section, we're going to look at the features in Sage CRM 2018 R2 that allow you to manage such customer consent. Sage CRM 2018 R2 has added a simple consent tracking capability, allowing you to store consent records from customers against their contact record. And here you can see I'm looking at the consent records for a person. The screen shows the consent records for a lead. Consent should be recorded for each type of campaign. There's in fact no concept of one consent acceptance covering all types of interactions. In this case, I've received consent for email contact associated with sales offers, but the lead has declined to receive third-party offers via post, and I'm still waiting to hear whether they're happy to receive phone calls from me. And any of this consent should also be renewed, for example, every 2 years. And if we can see here, we can see that a new consent record can be created, and once saved, a new consent email can be sent. There are in fact separate default email templates provided for managing person and lead consent, and the recipient of the email, and here we can see an example of an email that has been received based on that template that I've just shown you, that when they click on the links, that will either confirm their consent or they can click on the link to withdraw consent. The recipient of the email can then click the links to manage these. And if we look at those hyperlinks, the consent management hyperlinks are added into the email templates. And if I show you the next slide, this is going to show you how that sits behind those hyperlinks are special merge codes which are used to build the hyperlinks inside the template. And these two links are either used to provide consent by the contact, or for the contact to withdraw consent. And the URL you can see that is generated contains a globally unique identifier, GUID. The URL calls to an endpoint in a similar way to the web-to-lead functionality and requires that the Sage CRM server is accessible from outside the organizational network. So that's something that will have an immediate impact on many customers who haven't exposed Sage CRM to the context of the outside internet. Now, the submit consent endpoint functionality updates the consent management table in Sage CRM, and if I scroll to the right, you can see the GUID listed here. When the recipient of the email clicks one of the consent management links in the email, this updates the record in Sage CRM and then redirects the contact to a configurable landing page. And this is a simple redirect. This is a single common landing page for all emails, and no parameters are passed, and table level scripts are not triggered. The system administrator defines the location of the consent response URL within the administration, email and documents area, and then within the email configuration screen. The individual responses are then tracked and displayed within Sage CRM's user interface. And you can see here that this lead has consented to one form of contact but has withdrawn permission from another, and we're yet to hear from them about a third type of contact. So we can send this type of consent email to a group. So we can send a mass consent email from within Sage CRM, and the bulk request it can be issued to a group members. So each customer response or non-response can be tracked. And so when a contact clicks on the link to accept communications, this acceptance is recorded in Sage CRM against their record. But what do you do if you need to remove customer data? Well, the law or laws such as the GDPR introduce a right for individuals to have personal data erased, and the right of erasure is also known as the right to be forgotten. Anonymization is the recommended approach for implementing the right to be forgotten for an individual prospect or customer. Anonymization is better than the deletion of records in most cases. For example, deleting a company may have a big impact on the integration with an accounting system, but you'd also need to understand all of the parent-child hierarchy with not just the core system entities but also the custom entities. And then there's the whole question about the commercial and operational impacts. For example, would it be right to delete opportunities in cases? How would this affect the performance stats for individuals and teams? And how would you keep historical information that is used then to calculate likely future conversion rates or are used in forecasting? Note that in Sage CRM also a delete is typically a soft delete, therefore the record remains inside the table. So in any case, personal data fields should be anonymized before deletion. Customers may need to anonymize a large group of data. For example, where there is no permission or consent to market to a large group of contacts. And after the GDPR comes into force, mass anonymization of fields into a group of records is possible in Sage CRM via this mass update functionality. And this will allow you to anonymize personal information. You can see you can choose the item and then you'll be able to substitute it for whatever token you wanted to use to represent the anonymized data, XXX, etc. As part of the general right to be forgotten, you may also need to remove communications. And there are communications either associated with a person or a lead that can be removed. The Communication tab will have a button available to the administrator to allow them to delete all communications associated with a contact. And this would need to be confirmed. And in this case, where I've deleted against a person, this is going to affect all communications for this person. And if you delete a communication such as a task that are not linked to any other person, in Sage CRM, then the communication is deleted and the communications are no longer visible to any users. But if you delete a communication such as an appointment that may be linked to multiple persons in Sage CRM, then the link for that person is removed, but the communication remains for the other contacts. You may also delete documents that have been added against a person's records, and these are files either uploaded or generated as a result of a merge. And system administrators can see this button, delete all documents. And if you think about the number of documents that we see here against this particular person, if we look at that on the actual file store, when delete all documents is pressed, then this will remove the database library record and the files. And so once the administrator confirms the deletion, this means that the library records are deleted, but also the files have also been deleted as well. It's possible to perform a bulk delete of communications and documents associated with a group of contacts. A system administrator can access the mass delete button shown on the group page. The administrator can select which type of record to delete, then confirm that these items are to be removed, which then performs the deletion. The last area to consider is managing the way in which data has been shared with other systems. Sage CRM integrates with a very wide range of Sage accounting products. These are classified by Sage as the Sage 200 Cloud franchise products. You may know them as Sage 100 Cloud, Sage 200 Cloud, or Sage 300 Cloud. And there are no changes planned to any of the integrations to the Sage 200 franchise cloud franchise products in relation specifically with GDPR. This means that the normal rules relating to data synchronization from a Sage accounting system to Sage CRM needs to be understood. And this might cause a piece of data that has been anonymized in Sage CRM to pass in either direction between the two systems. And so there's no difference really in the regular record updates that may occur as part of the integration. Within Sage CRM 2018 R2, person records that are shared with MailChimp or SwiftPage can also be flagged. And where you have got information about personal information contained within a person's Facebook page or a link to a Twitter handle, all contained within a contact, we need to be able to know that we can remove those with the anonymization features. And you also need to understand where data has been passed through to external systems like MailChimp and SwiftPage to be able to see a flag to indicate that a particular company or contact has been synchronized with the person, with the external system. So if I go to something like a person summary screen, and this happens to be looking at the summary screen for a contact in Sage CRM, you can see that on this screen that the contact has been sent to MailChimp. And this field is either going to display null, MailChimp, SwiftPage, or SwiftPage and MailChimp. And the information is also shown at the level of the company. And this feature will be added for leads in Sage CRM 2018 R3. Now, talking about MailChimp allows us to introduce some other enhancements that have been made to the MailChimp integration. MailChimp results are now available on the Person Marketing tab, and this details MailChimp email marketing campaigns that this person has been included in, and how the screen shows the count of emails opened and links clicked per campaign. MailChimp results are also available on the Company Marketing tab. Details of the MailChimp email marketing campaigns that used company email addresses when we sent a company group across to MailChimp that are going to be listed here. So this is when we are working with the group sent to MailChimp, and that might be the sort of the general emails like sales at my company. Now, some changes are invisible to administrators, but there are some which are very visible, and these are all part of improving the user experience. If we look at the If we look at the user preferences screen, you can see that there's a new option included in the user preferences screen, and this preference allows a user to decide how the main menu should be displayed on small screened devices. On narrow screens, the main menu appears as a 3 horizontal line clickable icon, and you can see this at the top left of the screen. And so the main menu is now optimized for long item names and smaller screens. There are other enhancements that have been made. So, for example, if we look at the calendar enhancements, we now have filtering by action and status that has been added to the day, work week, week, and month views. Here you can see that I'm filtering to find appointments of type meetings rather than demos or any other type of appointment. Filters are retained for the duration of the user's sessions, and the default filter is pending if we look at a screen like this. Another change is in the preferences as well, and you can see that here that my dates are currently displaying as Friday 6th of April 2018, so 06/04/2018, or in other versions DD/MM/YYYY. If I go in to look at preferences, I can now see that calendars follow the settings in the user preferences. So if I change these, they're going to change, and you can see how I'm changing it. They're actually going to change then in the calendar. There are other enhancements around Quick Find. The maximum number of on-screen results returned by Quick Find can now be configured. Here you can see the default is 8. The system-wide maximum value for all users is set within the Quick Find configuration area. You can see you'd come into Administration, System, Quick Find, and here you can change it. And as soon as we've changed it, the results then, if I've changed it, as you can see, to 30, the results appear as a scrollable list. And within the results that have been returned, the quick find results have also been optimized. The query now does a full match search combined with a wildcard search, and so provides a better relevancy scoring on the results. Another improvement is that quick find now displays results from multi-line text fields. And you can see that this communication references an engineer callout, and note that the task has the subject help for Tony. So we can see that the task help for Tony is now listed in the results set when we type in engineer as the search term. So to wrap up the quick find enhancements, quick find has seen enhancements to the size of the results list listed, how those results are returned, to find the most relevant data, and now also to search within multi-line text boxes. That just about wraps up everything I wanted to share about the materials that we're creating to support the release of Sage CRM 2018 R2. Please share this information with colleagues and have a look to see how they can benefit from the supporting material. If you need help or advice with skilling up on Sage CRM within an integrated environment, take advantage of the opportunity presented by the community. Thank you very much for listening.